to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. A reminder, we are streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday between 1 and 3 p.m. I'm joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. Raptors losing last night, falling down 2-0 in the series. You're still wearing the same jacket as yesterday. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? I can't repeat clothes now?
No.
Locked
You're on
in,
TV.
Man. All right, fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you out when you wear the Liverpool kit again. I
got like 4 Liverpool kids. You're not gonna find out.
I'm just on LinkedIn reading why Tuesdays are important for your company culture. Did you know that Tuesday is a wonderful weekday? It comes exactly after Monday and just before Wednesday. Being the second day of the work week, some people describe it as a second Monday. So happy second Monday to you.
It definitely feels like a second Monday after the Raptors lost last night, and we're here to diagnose another loss by the team. And
you gave me a hard time with the episode description yesterday because I'm in charge of that, and I just put Raptors lose game 1 with an exclamation mark.
Yeah.
So are you okay if I put the Raptors lose game 2 today?
You should, actually.
Okay, I got you. I got you. And then we'll go to playoff cliches. By the way, no Orlando Magic references today. I think
technically you just did, but
we've gotten tired of that game. It'll be replaced by playoff cliches. So the Raptors lost last night, 112-97. So 5-possession game on the road, real close. Closely contested, game. But the Sixers did what they had to do. They protected home court, and now it's Toronto's turn. They get to go home, sleep in their own beds. Eat at the restaurants that they like. And I think that's going to be the key of the turnaround for the Raptors tomorrow. Okay. No,
my hope is that maybe Philadelphia is like riding off the high of being up 2-0, and maybe they eat at some of the nice restaurants and maybe go to some of the nice bars. And
so only Cactus Club?
Some nice lounges and stay out late and have a really good time. Because, look, listen, the city of Toronto is very blessed. I know it was 20 degrees Celsius in Philadelphia. Basically, this past week, they get to fly here, see sleet and snow on the ground.
Yeah, they see Fred Van Sleet.
Nah, man, it's for real. It's April 19th, and there is like 2 inches of snow outside. I'm wearing like Chelsea boots again. It's tough. But I hope the Sixers get to enjoy that, soak in this experience. You only live once. That's another one.
Yeah.
And
a series doesn't start.
Just enjoy, man. Please, please enjoy the city.
A series doesn't start until a home team loses. The Raptors thrive off adversity. They've been in these tough situations, and sometimes the tough situations bring the best out of you. It's the first team to 4. So I think the Raptors understand where they're at, and, one game can change the entire complexion of the series. Yeah, that's all I got for now.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. It's actually pretty amazing that, like, in discussing sports in particular, there is just, like, rehearsed lexicon that both fans understand is just like mumble jumbo, and players understand as mumble jumbo, and media understands as mumble jumbo.
But we all play the game.
Everyone plays the game. Yeah. That's just how the game is played. Like, what does that phrase even mean?
Do you want like a head coach or a player after they're down 2-0, like Nick Nurse yesterday or Fred, to go to the podium and be like, "Oh man, yeah, this is bad"?
I don't know. I mean, I think I just like prefer when players give like thoughtful answers.
No, that's fair.
But I think most times they don't really want to be there. Like, you're probably like pretty pissed off. Obviously, the Raptors lost yesterday, another blowout, frustrating fashion. You could be upset at so many things. I know a lot of focus has been on the officiating. Their names are, oh my God, another incredible drop.
Yeah,
from
the officiating. Yes, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yep.
Intern.
23-year-old. Reading week's over. Shouts to Derek.
Oh, fair enough.
Hope you pass intro to microeconomics.
I mean, look, if you can find the intersection between the 2 lines, then I think you're good.
Come on, man. Don't disrespect the 96 that I got. Come on, man.
You got 96% right on how to find 2 lines and the way they intersect. No, but seriously, it's like I could see their frustration, right? But like ultimately at the same time, you have to sort of play through it. And that might have been the only thing that for me that disappointed me yesterday was just like, so the Raptors went through a really cold stretch. They missed 17 of 20 shots on one point, which, by the way, I do feel like I hear that from Matt Devlin like every other game.
Every other? Like, every game the Raptors have to pack their offense into 40 minutes because there's like 2 4-minute droughts. And when you were referring to the fact that they missed, 17 of 20?
17 of 20 before OG hit a turnaround jumper. It was very tough.
They had 2 droughts that I remember yesterday that were like that, and that's tough. So we're going to recap game 2. We're going to find some new hobbies for Will Lou in the second segment, and then Blake Murphy will join us in the second hour, and by us I mean Will Liu. I'm going to put on my producer hat and just listen to them, wax poetic about X's and O's. But first, I do think we need to get to the officiating because it's just become such a large part of the conversation. And I really just want to separate two different conversations. One with the frustration with the officiating, and two with the fact that the Raptors are not down 2-0 because solely of the officiating. It's because they have played terribly and because they've been hit with injuries and all of that. Like a lot of on-court stuff that has nothing to do with the officials. But yesterday, before the game, I've never seen this before. People can correct me.
This is a new one.
I tapped in on the Zoom because I am a media member, and I listened to Nick Nurse. And Nick was going at the referees before the game, talking about, the plays that he saw in game one. And he was hoping that, they would basically saying, like, to paraphrase, like that they would have the guts to call some of these physical plays that was going on.
I think that's a direct phrase. He literally called out their guts.
He did. He called them out.
Which,
so
again, it's before the game. The game hasn't even happened yet. Nick Nurse is like, "You're a coward." And they're like, "Whoa, hold on."
Meanwhile, the three
we
refs
haven't even blown a whistle yet.
The three refs are eating whatever the equivalent is of the Alouette wedge salad in Philadelphia in their room, getting ready, and be like, "Oh my God, this coach is calling us out. All right, here comes a 30-12 free throw, disparity." But so the Raptors came out and played physical as they talked about for, the 2 off days. And there was an early double technical for OG and Joel Embiid. There was one play when Joel got to the basket. I think he just fell, but it seemed like there was a lot of physicality there in terms of, like, I think OG and Pascal met him at the basket.
They went to review it, and the officials are like, this is a common foul.
Yeah. So I thought, like, oh man, it's the bad boy Raptors, like they're gonna really respond to what Nick was saying, make it really tough, and like play physical in a way that's legal and allowed, and try to push the limit. But I felt like the Raptors kind of dropped off of that, like after like the first couple minutes of the game.
I was kind of disappointed in that, quite frankly, because it looked like the Raptors were gonna foul Joel Embiid every single time down. He shot 12 free throws in the first quarter. The Raptors shot 12 free throws in the game overall, right? So like, I thought the strategy was again, it's not like hurting him or anything like that. It's just like, let's take hard fouls on him and wear him down, right? Even if you lose this particular battle, maybe you can win the war overall. But as you mentioned, after that hard foul, after the double technical, it kind of just stopped. And the rest of the way, it was like they were just taking like light, soft fouls on him, which, I mean, I guess like the intention wasn't to intentionally foul him, but at the same time, it's like, if you are going to foul him, like, leave something on him,
Yeah,
and
no, like
that just kind of stopped. So I think Embiid was almost more encouraged to keep going back. There was no like discouragement from his part. He just realized, oh, if I get to any spot on the floor, they're going to foul me. It's going to be light. I'm going to go to the free throw line. And, that's kind of how it was. Like, there was no, like, the intent of it is not to like injure him whatsoever. Like, it's literally just to like say, if you are going to come into the paint, you are going to have to earn it. Right. And I don't know, even though they sent him to the free throw line 12 times in one quarter, he wasn't really feeling it in that kind of way.
No, he was playing to the crowd after some of the fouls, some of the and ones, and he wasn't uncomfortable.
Yep.
And I think the other thing too is, like, if you do play physical with him, within the boundaries, you can get him frustrated. And we've seen Joel, complain about calls or get frustrated, and like maybe that gets in his head, and maybe that alters his game as well, right? But like ultimately,
but
I think
there was none of that doubt. That's my whole point.
No, there was none of it, and there's been none of it through 2 games. So that's a problem for me. But for me, that's not why the Raptors lost. Like, that's just not why the Raptors lost.
No, I mean, it's like, again, like, you could say that the whistle is like inconsistent. I think that's something you look at. Like, for example, like while Embiid was going off, the Raptors also were attacking quite well, right? The Raptors ended up winning the first quarter despite Embiid shooting all those free throws. But it was real interesting to see, like, a guy like Pascal, for example, the way he was attacking, driving through contact. Guys were swiping at his arms. Guys were hand checking him, and there was just no call. And it's like, well, if you are deciding to call it in a very tight manner, that's not great, but fine. Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But then you have to call it on both ends.
No, that's fair.
But at the same time, ultimately, the Raptors also defensively got beat a lot. And that's ultimately why you foul, is because you got beat defensively. Like, yes, you might say there are like 3 or 4 or 5 plays in a game where they flop and whatever, and they get calls. Like, for example, I thought the funniest part of the whole game last night was Harden's running the break, and Embiid's running alongside of him with Precious in front, trying to deny Embiid like just a free run to the basket. Embiid pushes Precious into the path of James Harden, who has his head down, and then both Harden and Embiid collapse over, and the free throws are given to James Harden, even though it was Embiid who pushed pressures into him. Like I thought that was just revolutionary in basketball. Like I'd never seen team tandem foul drawing. Like I've seen individual foul grifting. I've seen the sweep through. I've seen like, flopping. I've seen like hooking the arm on the way up. I mean, like you've seen a lot of it, right? You've seen like, yelling and one, all that stuff. But like two guys working together to draw one foul, that's a first in NBA basketball. You know that, right? Like
Yeah,
it's going to change the game forever.
There's a great photo of that of both of them just laid out on the ground.
Yeah.
That's me and you doing 2-hour shows every day. But yeah, no, it was incredible. And Nick set the tone before the game, talking about the refs in pregame, and of course the game ends at the buzzer with the cameras capturing Nick Nurse and Joel Embiid having a little conversation. And Nick Nurse was asked about it, and from his perspective, he said that Embiid told him, quote, "I'm going to keep making all these free throws if you keep fouling." And Nick's response was, "You might need to." On a scale of comebacks, 2 out of 10 for me.
Yeah,
if that was what's really said. And listen, I think Nick complimented Joel Embiid after the game, talking about how he's a great player. And Joel had nice things to say too. But Joel was also asked after the game about the exchange. And here is what he said about it.
Oh man, he's a great coach. Obviously, I got what he's been able to accomplish, and I've always been a big fan. But I told him, respectfully, told him to stop about calls because I saw what he said last game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
listen, it's funny. It's funny because obviously Embiid, quote unquote, about calls, right? Blanks about calls.
Yeah.
Too. So he knows the game. Everyone's playing the game. And that's Nick playing the game.
Yeah, everybody's playing the game.
He understands that. This is, by the way, it's really fun banter. I really like it. Obviously, the Sixers have won both games. Embiid has gone to the free throw line more than the Raptors as a team, I think. But ultimately, he's winning. So what are you really going to say?
No,
like,
there's
like, what can Nick really say in that situation?
Yeah.
Like, Nick's like, hey, we're not fouling you. And then Beat's like, okay. Talk to the refs again. Like,
they've had no answers. They've had no answers so far. It's interesting, too, you mentioned the offense going through these droughts. And I saw a friend of the program, the scorers, Joe Wolfond, tweet this out this morning, is that the Raptors, first shot half-court offense has, a net rating of, 110.
Yeah, no, it's actually genuinely okay. Which is kind of incredible.
Because it doesn't really pass the eye test for me.
I know, but when you watch the game back, because I think when you're watching it live, there's all the emotions and sort of like the swings, everything. When you watch it back the next day, you're much more impartial to it because you know what happened, everything like that. And you watch the film, you're like, the Sixers aren't even moving around that much defensively. Like, it's not that much of a surprise that the Raptors actually have done decently in a half-court points per possession kind of manner. I think what's really hurt the Raptors is that their transition defense has just been terrible for both games. And there are probably strategical elements that they need to fix. I'm not going to have this conversation with you because Blake Murphy.
Yeah. Save that for
Tuesday.
Blake.
I know how happy you are when I'm like, I'm not going to talk about basketball with you. But no, I think that that's actually not been the issue. The main issue is how the Raptors are playing on defense. Like, it's so bad. Like, it's really embarrassing when you look back on not just like our preview content, but like when you look at the overall series preview content. The overall idea was the Raptors are going to throw all of these things at them, right? The menu, right? The Nick Nurse menu that Nate Bjorkgren brings to your table, with a white cloth and like offers and asks, do you want sparkling or tap?
Yeah, usually get tap. What do you get?
What do you think I get, man? Of course I get tap.
Oh,
I'm not going to get sparkling. Like, come on, bro.
Tap or no
for
tap?
water? Are you serious? Yeah. Anyway, that was the talk, was like the Raptors going to be so innovative on defense. They could do this and this and this and this. Like, they haven't done anything.
No.
Sixers have had two of the most efficient games I've ever seen out of them in the two games. So they have to step up on the defensive end. And that includes not fouling. Like, you really can't foul this team. The Sixers only had 4 guys who shot free throws. It was Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey. All those guys are 80% plus free throw shooters. That's not a good play for you if you end up fouling them. Especially if you end up fouling them lightly. Like, you're not even like leaving something on them. You're just sending them to the free throw line. And so you have to do better defensively against them. And quite frankly, like, it's starting to feel a little bit like those LeBronto years where it's like when you break it down, you're like, okay, if the Raptors could cut out this mistake, this mistake, this mistake, and then if the Raptors also shoot well, then they can win. And it's like, ultimately, you're like, that's a lot of things you need to do better. But ultimately, you do have to still hold out hope. I mean, like, ultimately, the series doesn't start until the home team loses.
That's
so
right.
the series hasn't even started yet, man.
No,
Sixers
man.
just did what they needed to do. They took care of business. Now
That's
it's for
right.
the Raptors to do the same.
I want Fred to go to the podium after winning tomorrow and be like, you know what changed everything? Being able to sleep in my own bed. Like that is what changed everything. But yeah, I think, the LeBronto comparisons.
By the way, I'm
yeah.
not saying it's like
No.
it's anywhere close to that. Quite frankly,
that
it's
was
not.
That was infinitely worse to me, just because those. Again, we were talking about house money last week, right? A lot of people saying that in a development year, the Raptors are a 5th seed, and obviously there was a lot of optimism, including from us, that they could win this series. And then the series is not over. It's the first of 4. It's not the first of 2, but I think those teams had expectations. They were the top seed, top couple seeds, every year. And they just got completely brushed aside by LeBron. Like, these are completely different circumstances. I've seen comparisons to the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals when the Bucks were up 2-0.
Listen,
It's
I
a
love
different
that 2019 team, but
it's
please,
a different team.
Please don't sell their name, man.
It's a very different team. If anything, this playoff run, or whatever you want to call it, because it hasn't been a playoff run, has reminded me just exactly how difficult it was in 2019 to win 4 rounds in a playoff series and really appreciate it more. But we're not here to look at the past, all right? So yesterday, what was the most crushing play for you? For me, it was Danny Green going in for the dunk and Matt Devlin shouting, "Timeout Raptors." I was like, God damn.
Yeah, first off, Danny Green dunking is not something I expected.
Yeah,
but,
I unsubscribed to Inside the Green Room in that moment, yeah.
I was going to say...
Shouts to Harrison Sanford on the show tomorrow.
Come on, bro. Resubscribe to that thing, man. No, but there was Danny dunking. To me, it was Embiid trapped in the corner, turn around, fadeaway jumper out of the corner to beat the clock, a 3 over Kem Birch. Like, I mean, come on, man. That's outrageous. Like, honestly, when you look back at it, there were a lot of really tough shots that they made, which does give you hope that, like, maybe they get cold as a team. The issue is right now you got to put out 4 fires, and I don't know, man.
We know Scotiabank Arena is good at that.
I was going to say, the firefighters still there? Can they spray down the Sixers on their way in?
Do you have the stats with you of Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris through the first 2 games? Because they have been ridiculous.
Yeah, this has been embedded into my mind. It's joined the J.R. Smith shooting 77% from 3 lexicon in my mind. Remember that one from one of the LeBronto years? But
the LeBronto year, by the way.
Yeah, you're right. So Maxey and Harris, which, by the way, like, the Raptors are funneling the Sixers offense towards them, right? Because of the fact that, as much as Nick Nurse is innovative and creative, his game plan sometimes is very simple. We're going to stop your top 2 guys, force your other guys to beat you. Well, this is what other guys beating you looks like, because Maxey and Harris, through 2 games, have scored 107 points on only 57 shots.
It's ridiculous.
They're basically scoring 2 points per shot, man. And I understand there's free throws, all this stuff. They're not turning the ball over either. They have a lot of assists in that stretch too. But 107 points on 57 shots from their 3rd and 4th options.
So you're telling me they're Joel Embiid and James Harden, and they still have Joel Embiid and James Harden?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Danny Green is dunking.
Danny Green dunking is whatever, but like it's
come
like
on, don't brush that aside.
No, it's like a meme. Like, come on.
He's not allowed in Etobicoke anymore. What is that, Apache Burger? No, take that photo down. No more podcasts at Rec Room. He's banned. No, he's done, man. Oh, man.
Yeah.
On the Raptors side, Fred VanVleet played 44 minutes. Looked great at the start. Finished with 20 points, 7 for 23 from the field, 5 of 16 from 3. Pascal Siakam, 41 minutes, 20, 10, and 5. OG Anunoby, positive, 10 of 14 from the field, 26 points in 38 minutes. I mean, you could nitpick at the performance, but, the quote-unquote big 3 of the Raptors, I think, did show up. But
I mean, like, physically? Like, what do you mean?
I mean...
Okay, look, for Fred, he got out to a really good start. I think he had 15 points in the first quarter.
Yeah.
He opened the game, I think, shooting 5 of 7 from the field. He was 2 of 16 the rest of the way.
He's not physically well either. he should be listed on the injury report. No excuses.
Yeah, actually, so the Fred with the knee thing, and we've seen this now where he will have like really good quarters, but then fade, right?
Yep.
It's been the pattern pretty much for like the entire second half of the season when he's dealing with this knee injury. You know what it reminds me of? You know when you have like a phone that's older than 2 years?
Yeah.
You charge it to full, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
That
then,
starts dying real quick.
And then you're like, oh, man, from
draining.
like 100 to 80, it's like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then you put on the battery saver.
That's Fred, right? Oh,
and then you got like another, like an hour after that.
Yep.
But that's basically it.
So how do we get Fred an external charger? What is an external charger right now for Fred?
A suitable backup, which he's lacked all season.
You don't like Malachi Flynn, our new Matthew Dellavedova? Draped on Tyrese Maxey?
I would take Delly on this team. I genuinely would take Delly on this team.
I mean, you were watching some Aaron Baines clips before our show today.
Just to remind me what centers look like. Yeah.
Interesting. Gary Trent Jr. was a game time decision with a non-COVID illness. He did warm up wearing a mask and ended up playing 10 minutes, was 0 for 3, and Nick admitted after the game he probably shouldn't have played. Gary obviously not himself right now, just physically.
Yeah, no, it's not, man. I mean, what did Nick say after the game? He's like, yeah, I shouldn't have played him.
He shouldn't have played him,
Yeah.
That's what he said.
No.
Yeah.
Hindsight
is 20/20, cliche.
I've been debating. So I know a lot of people have dabbled in conspiracy theories.
Oh, you're about to bring this on air? All right, do the one camera shot on Will, so I'm not involved in this.
I can't believe it. I feel so ashamed even saying this. Do you think? Do you think we're playing him while he's sick so that he can like switch on to every Sixer and maybe like breathe on them a little bit?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. It's a conspiracy theory. It's not true.
No. Moving on.
It's not true.
What is wrong with you, man?
Yo, they've lost 2 games. So we're trying to bring some levity to the situation. You know,
we are bringing levity.
Yeah,
one
anyway,
cliche at a time.
Listen, I want to say very firmly on the topic of Fred. I salute Fred so much for that effort that he put out there. Like him, Pascal, OG, Thad Young playing through injury. You know, Gary playing through like the illness, like not even close to 100%. He's like 20%. Not even actually. He was just walking around out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, I salute these guys so much because they are in a very tough situation. Like, I don't think you can really ignore the fact that you have 3 of your rotation players giving you nothing right now, right? Scotty's hurt. Thad is hurt. And Gary is hurt. Or I guess like, not hurt, but like, you know, sick.
Shouts to Chris Boucher, by the way. Nice bounce back performance yesterday.
I agree. But ultimately, like, you know, what are you really going to do? We know the Raptors have no depth. We were talking about this on the show yesterday. It was like, well, Nick probably has to cut down to a 7-man rotation. That's ultimately what he did. And, you know, when you do that, you burn your guys out a little bit. Like with Fred, for example, like even just putting aside that analogy with the old phone, like he played the entire first quarter, the entire second quarter. He played 8 minutes in the third quarter, and he played the entire fourth quarter.
Yeah, what did you say? He only gets to rest when Embiid's at the free throw line?
That's
shooting
genuinely it. Like, if this was an open court game, you don't even, I mean, I don't know. And plus, by the way, like the load is very heavy because he's also having to be the primary defender. You see him guarding James Harden quite a bit. You see him guarding Tyrese Maxey quite a bit. You see him having to help and rotate, and it's like, these are very high stress minutes too. I'm not even saying like this is even like, you know, end of the season kind of minutes too. So I do I sympathize. Like I really do. Like I'm not like criticizing the effort whatsoever from these guys. Like they're giving their all out there, but you know, they're a little undermanned right now. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, that's
and
not,
plus like their game strategy is like ultimately, you know, you take the ball out of their main guy's hands and you force other guys to beat you, and they just keep beating you. Right? Like again, like I tweeted this out, but it was like, if I told you coming into the series, hey, you know, I have a crystal ball, I've seen into the future of this series. In the first 2 games, when you're on the road in Philadelphia, first off, some of your young guys might look a little shaky at times. The officiating is going to piss you off massively. Embiid's going to have his way in the paint against your non-centers who you're guarding him with.
So your whole roster, yeah.
And then on top of all that, you are going to have success in terms of limiting James Harden individually, and even to a lesser degree Embiid in terms of his individual scoring. But Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris are going to score 107 points on you on 57 shots. On top of that, you're going to lose 3 rotation players pretty much right away. And your main guys, 2 of your 3, OG and Fred, banged up towards the end of the season, they're gonna run out of gas a little bit. And you would just say, well, sounds like they probably lost both games, probably by substantial margins too. But maybe if they get healthier, maybe some of those other guys cool off, then you have a chance. You're like, yeah, that's true. Which is kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, and I think all season we've talked about a lot of these issues. And I think when you zoom out and look at it, the over-reliance on Fred, I think is a concern that we've talked about all season, the lack of depth. Like the Raptors don't have a player that can just come in and have a surprise performance and swing a game, right? Like who's coming off the bench and giving you like a 20-point performance? There's not a single player.
I don't even trust that's the thing. I mean, Chris is probably the only guy who can kind of do that for you with his hustle.
Right. But like it's not like they can dust off a Malachi Flynn, dust off a Delano Banton, dust off a Utah Watanabe, Svi, and like have that type of performance that they need. They clearly need more shooting. Like I think all these concerns are not new.
Yeah, they might even need playmaking because I think, for example, where the guy like Chris coming off the bench giving you 17 points, right? That's close to the 20 that you were requesting. But the issue, I think, is like he's not, quote unquote, creating those opportunities. It's not like you're running the offense through a guy. So then all of a sudden you can give Fred that time off to rest, right? Like, for example, you said, why do they play Malachi? I'm sure part of the reason they wanted to play Malachi was so that they can have another ball handler on the floor so Fred can play off the ball and attack and come off screens and stuff like that, right? You can do that with Pascal to some degree, but, of course, if you have 2 ball handlers, you can have even more chances to do so. Usually you have Scotty Barnes out there being your secondary ball handler, but obviously he's hurt. So you have to have someone else handle the ball. Malachi is your next guy. Like, that's fine, but he can't make plays for you. He was 0-4 from the field last night, I think 0 points, right? And, like, whatever, you could say his defense was persistent. I would hope so.
That's a Matthew Dellavedova style.
You're not being asked to do that much offensively, but there are some like real limitations. And by the way, even having said all this, the funny thing to me is like nobody on the Sixers bench is hurting you. If anything, the Sixers bench has been great for the Raptors when Niang's in the game.
Yeah, why did they have to call those 3 fouls on Niang in the first quarter, man?
Yeah, it was tough.
It was looking like a $25 media meal voucher, man.
Yeah, but like you look at Niang and it's like, okay, you can attack him. Paul Reed has done nothing in the series so far, right? Shake Milton, whatever, right? It's like for example, yesterday, Chris Boucher single-handedly outscored the entire Sixer bench. But you are having such a hard time guarding their front 4. And until you at least even you probably need to limit 2 of them to win a game. Until you do that, it's going to be like this. And honestly, at certain points, you might have to say, well, damn, hats off to the Sixers too, because they're playing amazing basketball. Those 4 guys in particular. Right? Like, you can't tell me your 3rd or 4th option to have 107 points on 57 shots and really expect to win. So.
No, I'm with you, man.
It's tough, man. It's tough. But they still have a chance.
No, they still have a chance, man. 1st to 4. Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm going to keep track during this playoff run, however long it might be. Will Lou tweet of the night.
Okay.
This one came at 8:30 p.m. yesterday. I wish I could track exactly what the score was at the time. Probably in the second quarter, I want to say. Will Lou said, quote, honestly, just play Utah. He's always energetic on defense, and every shot is for Pascal and Fred anyway. Plus, he's Asian. Just do it. This guy put out a Nike ad. He said, just do it.
Sneak that in there, man. No, I mean, I think, is Blake behind me on the TV screen? It's kind of freaking me out almost.
Blake, don't come in till 2.
Okay, all right. But, I mean, I think my point at that point was like, okay, so I wasn't really sure what the rotations were. I think obviously when you get into foul trouble, one of the issues is you're going to have to scrap your whole rotation, right? All season we have seen Nick resist using 2 point guard lineups because those have not worked for him. It makes the Raptors really small when you have Fred and Malachi out there. And part of what makes the Raptors good this season is playing bigger lineups, right? And so when you're playing Malachi and Fred together, but also Malachi's only role is to bring the ball up and maybe hit Fred on a off-ball screen or whatever, which, by the way, didn't even happen. And it was basically just Fred ISOing and then Pascal ISOing and OG ISOing. At least give me a defender in there who can put some energy out there. Like, that was my thinking with that.
No,
I don't think it's going to change anything in the series, but, at least it made more sense on paper to me. It's just I want the Raptors to play big. Like, I don't want to see 2 small guards out there, especially when on the other end, all the Sixers are doing is hurting you inside. Like, even Tobias Harris. Like, Tobias Harris sees Malachi Flynn, and he's like, oh, wow. I mean, I know I'm not, like, a highly rated player. And I know people look down on me as Tobias Harris, but I could still score on Malachi Flynn, man. I'm 6'8". I have a mid range game. I have a post game, and you're gonna guard me with a guy who's 6'1" with no help? Of course I'm gonna score. So at least if it's like a 6'8" guy guarding him, I'd rather that.
Yeah, man. Do I gotta call Glenn Doc Rivers again? Or we gotta
He's,
wait.
but I think we gotta track his his progress
Yeah,
towards the doctorate.
yeah. He's missing 2 electives.
So
still.
game one, by winning game one, he got his undergrad.
Right,
Right now, he is in a co-op year,
right.
a work abroad kind of thing. And then if he wins game 3, and he will have his master's, and then game 4 will be the doctorate, completing a thesis and everything.
Man, actually, the most crushing thing, I think it was NBC Sports Philadelphia put out a photo of Nick in the NN hat and put 2 L's on it. That one hurt me.
That's tough. But it's still not as devastating as when I put on the hat and put DC on it.
But you know what? It's the first to 4 L's, not 2 L's. All right, we're going to take this break. And then when we come back, Will Lou, we're going to find Will Lou 3 new hobbies outside of basketball.
All right. I've been your host, Will Lou. That's Alex Wong. You're listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590, The Fan. Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Wolu. Alex, you're still here, co-host. And joining us, a little early, but Blake Murphy. We're not going to play your music until we actually do the Blake Murphy Tuesday portion of this, because Alex is still determined to not talk about the game and lighten up the vibe, because in the second hour, we will definitely get into everything. My plan and my only note to Blake in preparation for this show is we're going to draw up the entire defensive game plan from scratch.
Oh, man, you're going to come up with your own all-you-can-eat menu for the Sixers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You see that whiteboard right there with all the Leafs lines on it? We're gonna erase that, and we're gonna draw a little basketball court on it.
You guys are opening your own little Mandarin buffet. Yeah, so you know the formula for this show, especially since we've gone to 2 hours, is first segment, we talk basketball. Second segment, we talk about Will Lou. That's just the way that we do it. I know.
Well, it is the Raptor Show
with Will Lou.
So
so we have to address both ends
all right.
of
Again,
the show.
This season is not about me.
So at 9:14 p.m. last night, I love how I'm reading out these timestamps like it's like a true crime podcast. Yeah. At 9:14 p.m. last night, I believe the Raptors are probably down 25 at this point, give or take. Will Lou tweeted out, so what are other hobbies besides the Raptors open to suggestions?
And just crowdsourcing ideas.
I've known you for so long, and listen, I'm the last person to say this. I'm a hypocrite because I tweet the same 3 things all the time, but I've seen you do this every Raptors playoff run, and I love it. Every time
this is not new, huh? Okay, damn.
This is not new, but hopefully we'll find you some new hobbies. So there were a lot of suggestions. I sifted through the mentions, and we've got Blake here too.
I haven't even looked at the responses to the tweet. There were like 200 responses.
Yeah, so we can go through this because you're a very, very popular person. You know, lots of Will Lou stans.
All right,
there's a literal Twitter account called Will Lou Stan.
Yeah,
so we're gonna get Blake's thoughts on this, and maybe Blake, as we're talking through this, maybe you can think of like a couple hobbies for Will as well. So I recommended to you that you should watch your favorite movie that you've talked about every day, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Go see it
until you've memorized every single scene, and you can come in here and talk about it, so you don't get caught like LeBron being asked about The Godfather.
Yeah, no, but I mean. I'm down. I'm down. I'm honestly down. My suggestion was every single time the Raptors lose a game in this series, I go watch the movie. So far, I'm 2 for 2.
Okay.
So.
All right. It's the first of 4, man. Not the first of 2. So it's the first of 4 movie screenings.
Oh, Lord.
Liban Osman suggests that you get into reality TV. Blake, are you into reality? No reality TV?
I've never finished a season of a reality show.
No Survivor?
Nothing.
Big Brother?
I've tried.
90 Day Fiance?
I don't get through the season. It's every time there's a new one, everyone's like, oh, you got to watch this one. This will be the one you make it through. And then I stop dating that person or something like that. And I no longer have the reason to watch it. Nice. No, I feel like pro wrestling takes up the place of reality TV for me, where it's like, it's something I know is silly and probably scripted, but I need to shut my brain off.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So reality TV is out on the table for you? Or wrestling as well?
Yeah, I watched like 3-4 seasons of Big Brother Canada.
Okay. The U.S. one's better, but yeah.
Okay, I enjoyed those.
Okay.
Season 5, the greatest season.
Yeah.
BB can. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
you're not a big TV guy, I don't
reality
feel like.
TV, I'm just like, everyone just like looks like, can I say asshole? Like,
oh, yeah, probably. I mean, we're going to find out.
It's your show.
I guess so, yeah. Everyone just seems like an ass. I don't know. The whole idea is to like go on there and just like be provocative, and I'm like, I don't know. I wouldn't like actually hang out with any of you in real life.
What would be your strategy if you were on Big Brother? Would you play the social game?
Yeah.
The physical? I could see you winning a lot of the contests too, though.
No, I'd probably play the social game. You know me. Social
Do
butterfly.
I know you? Social butterfly? I have seen Will try to talk to like people here at Sportsnet, and it's so funny, man.
Will's confessional at the end of every episode is 10 things.
Like there's a producer.
They're like, please just vote for who you want to leave the house. And we're like, no.
There's a producer here named Dylan Brown who, him and his wife expecting a baby later this year. And like you found out about this, and then like you ran up to him the next day being like, hey, is the baby here yet?
I don't know. I was expecting like Amazon Prime level. Like, I don't know.
And you're so like understand the grind. This is why people have to crowdsource hobbies for you, because you can't even conceptualize, oh, you had a baby, you're not working today. You're not. What do you mean 10 things is postponed?
Oh man. I don't know how people cover the team when they have like multiple kids to like,
I don't know how people have kids, period.
Oh, okay.
That is foreign to me.
That's a bigger conversation.
Like I'm an uncle now.
Oh, congrats.
Well, it's like he's almost a year now, but it's new to me.
Okay.
Alex, I know it's old hat for you, but it's pretty cool.
Everything's old hat for me.
Yeah. That looks like a new hat, though.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Blake makes a good point too. Being an uncle is so much better
Yeah.
than being a parent. But shouts to all the parents out there.
So
holding it down.
I've basically been a parenting kind of figure to my little brother, who's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah,
That's fair.
can we call him like at some point?
I can't even call him. I called him the last like 3 times in the last week, just being like, "Hey, can we please like chat?" But he's during it's exam season.
He's at McGill, right?
He's at McGill.
Yeah, shouts to
second
shouts
year
to
is
your
always
brother, Jimmy McGill. Yeah.
Second year is always very, very tough.
So if reality TV is not for you, here's the sales pitch for wrestling.
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
Satnam Singh debuted for All Elite Wrestling the other week, like former Dallas
Yeah,
Mavericks
I remember,
second round
Yeah,
pick.
Vivek Jacob actually came in here and gave me a quiz.
Okay.
Said Indian players that played in the G League.
Just
and
name 2.
And the hint was he's in wrestling now.
Okay,
And I couldn't
Satnam
get it.
Singh.
I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to get him tagging with Simbular
Mm.
is the move there.
You don't seem very excited about reality TV or
Satnam Singh.
or wrestling.
yeah, or Satnam Singh, or being an uncle, or having kids.
No, I don't know. I
Yeah.
would like to have kids. Yeah.
Okay.
I think probably having kids will balance me out a little bit.
All right, Derek
I
Brandale,
think
clip
that's
that.
probably one of the things people will say before having kids, and then afterwards they're like, "Why did I do this?" But you know,
So, Ali Khan from the Toronto Blue Jays,
Oh, yeah.
Salute AK, yeah.
simply sent you a baseball emoji.
Okay.
Let's people suggest
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you to get on the Leafs bandwagon as well. So let's
Yeah.
break it down. Blue Jays bandwagon. Blake, make the pitch to Will to become a baseball fan. This
I'm already
summer.
a Jays fan.
I've heard you have one conversation with your landlord about the AL East.
It's unbalanced.
Okay.
It is imbalanced until next year. This is your one talking point whenever anyone brings up baseball to you. Like, oh, I'm looking forward to the more balanced schedule in 2023.
Or talk about pitch calm. Blake, make the pitch for Will to become a Blue Jays fan.
Yeah, and I know Will's already a little bit of a Blue Jays fan, but now's the time to jump on, right? This is very 2019 Raptors-ish, where you've already had the so-called innocent climb where, hey, you've had the 2014 year and the 2016 year for the Raptors of, oh, we stumbled into this and we're good now, or we're good ahead of schedule, and our young guys are starting to show that they're real pieces.
Okay.
And this isn't quite the all-in move that a Kawhi Leonard was, but it's the highest budget that they've spent in team history. They have the guy who was second in MVP voting last year and is still the youngest player on the team. They've had a couple injuries to start here, but they're pretty loaded with likable guys who can hit. Matt Chapman is, if you wanted to understand what defense looks like on baseball, Matt Chapman in third base is a treat.
Can he guard Maxey?
Yeah, he can guard Maxey. They're a very
Stop making basketball references.
Yeah, they're a very diverse team, which makes them pretty fun to root for as like a reflection of the city they're representing. Then they just have a couple guys who are just like Teoscar Hernandez is like
the
a
hair,
Scotty Barnes type. No, Lourdes Gurriel has the hair.
Oh, that's
Teoscar's the smile.
I'm not a Jays.
No, he
fan.
has a great smile.
I've been exposed.
So
This
let's
is
go to
tough.
the park. You got the 50% off discount thanks to Rogers Media.
Yeah, but
I've got the 100% discount
what I was trying
thanks
to
to
say.
sources close to the
Nah,
team.
man, that's
So let's
I'm
go to
about
a game.
Steven LeBron
Let's
media.
go to a game.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I'm done. You know.
Yeah.
Like I love baseball.
I've never seen you so pressed.
No, listen. Trust me. This is how much I love baseball. I sat through me and my friend from high school.
Okay.
We sat through an entire game where the Jays went like 18 innings against, I believe, who was it? The Japanese Yu Darvish.
Texas Rangers
18,
probably.
Yeah,
at
it was
the
like
time,
18 innings,
Yeah.
and I think the Jays won. I think Aaron Hill and John McDonald were still on the team, something like that.
Did
But
you check your Twitter during the game? Were you doing anything basketball related?
I think that one might have been like pre-social media for me.
Okay,
So
okay.
it was enjoyable. I don't know. Maybe I posted on Facebook or something. But no, I'm down. I'm down. Baseball is good. I like baseball.
Okay, so we've got one because
Yeah,
the goal of this segment is to find you 3 hobbies.
I like baseball because it's like the one sport you're like, just put on the background and then just do other stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Good
oh, you
multitasking.
hear like, oh, there's like a roar from the crowd, and you look over and you see like, oh yeah, it's a double. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, cool.
I
And
wish
then
I
just-
wish you could do that in basketball.
No, you can't.
I
Like
know.
basketball, you have to like watch every possession all the time. It's
Do you?
happening.
You
everywhere.
do, because everything that happens is informed by what happened prior, right?
Yes,
Like
yeah.
you see
That's
Joel
right.
Embiid do something and it's like, oh yeah, that was set up by this success earlier, this failure earlier, and this is why the defense is that way.
Same for
and
baseball though. It's fun to watch like the pitch sequences and how the
It
pitcher
is,
goes
but
at the
they're a
batter.
little bit more independent
Totally.
events, right? Like
Yeah.
the pitcher versus batter element.
Yeah.
It's 1 versus 1 9 times, and then you maybe get a second or third time through the order, but they're a little more discreet and kind of unrelated.
Yeah.
Which is cool too, because like Will said, it allows for some casual viewing, and you don't have to pay it. Like you get 30 seconds between pitches. You can
Yeah.
be doing whatever.
Yeah.
Listen, just watch Jays in 30. Yeah. Just watch Jays in 30.
And
Honestly, do we need all 30 minutes?
is this-
you could watch Jays in 5.
Is this segment sponsored by Sportsnet? What's going on? I feel like we're
guess
pushing the
technically it
agenda.
is. I mean, anyway.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm in on baseball.
So you're on
I'm in on
baseball.
the Jays in particular.
So you said that's something that you can do, have on in the background. So maybe while you have that on in the background, someone else suggested you should get into painting.
yeah, I did that a while back actually.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like made a couple of like paintings. I was like, this is kind of cute.
Yeah.
Brought one to my parents. They hung it up, and then I was like, yeah, all right.
And that was it.
That was kind of it. Yeah.
Your parents put your artwork on the fridge?
Basically. I mean, honestly, basically.
No, your parents,
it's really,
parents print out your 10 things screenshots and have a collage of it.
No, I wish. No, but no, it's real embarrassing because my cousin is like genuinely like really, really good at art. She's like 17 now, but like like she'll like do like those classical like Chinese paintings, like with the watercolors and the mountains and the cloud. It looks incredible. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
And then I have like a scroll of that on the wall. And then like if you walk like 10 more steps in the house, you'll see like my like essentially a finger painting. It looks horrible.
Oh man. Okay.
But it's all good. Yeah, I'm into painting. Painting is cool. It was very relaxing. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, okay, I'm in. There's 2 hobbies. This is
okay,
great.
there's
yeah.
2. Next up, someone told you to get into crypto. Just cryptocurrency in general. I know you're making a lot of money now. You can invest.
Yeah,
No?
that's still not me.
No?
That's
Okay.
one step off Raptors Republic NFTs or something.
I have
like
some
that.
of those. I have some of those.
Wait,
Zerard
Raptors
Sam
Republic-
hit me with a couple of
They
those.
have NFTs?
They
What?
have NFTs. They have
Oh, wow.
a specific coin, I think, as well.
Yeah. All
That's
the
amazing.
NFTs are highlights from the 3-on-3 tournament.
Oh man, they need
That's worth something.
to mint your head.
Yeah.
That's a mint.
You know which one we need to get though? Actually, is we got to find a clip of Simu when he was playing in the 3-on-3 tournament.
Lord.
We NFT that.
Oh man, make some good money.
Yeah.
Someone said ramen. I guess ramen's not really a hobby, but
How's that a hobby? What do you want me to do? Like make this like to be like the hand stretching the noodles and everything? Like, come on, man.
how about golfing? Golfing was suggested
No,
as well.
I'm out, man.
Really?
I don't know. Like it's just first off, I've never played golf, but
Okay.
it just looks like it takes a really long time, and the payoff is you just like why don't you just play basketball at the park? You can probably make like 200 shots in the time you can hit like 18 holes.
Again, you're going back to basketball.
No, but it's just more rewarding. If the whole idea is putting a ball through like a hole, like you could just do it with basketball in a more efficient way.
Man. All right, your third hobby.
You also
might-
can't really compete with other people. It's just like,
Yeah, you
so-
can. We can gamble on every hole, but you don't like gambling either.
yeah, I mean, no, I like playing cards. Can we play cards?
Yeah, yeah. We
We'll
can.
No,
talk-
we
we'll talk about
did
the
the
Raptors
poker
soon.
thing. We did the online poker hobby already.
Let's bring it back. Run it back.
Yeah, run it back. Skateboarding
Yeah,
was also.
Assad's not allowed in. No.
Skateboarding I can't do because my center of gravity is in my head. So the balance is not going to be good enough. I tried though. I tried. Trust me, I did try skateboarding. And,
Yeah,
it's
Bill-
not for me. Yeah.
Building Gundam kits. You know those Gundam kits.
Yeah, of course I know that.
Yeah. What store did we go to yesterday after the show?
Sarah and Tom.
Yeah, shout out to that
Yeah,
place.
shout out to Sarah and
I'm
Tom.
about to get a Naruto tote bag
Yeah,
because I'm turning 38 this year.
You 40, bro.
I can do anything. Walking is always a great hobby. Someone said you like walking.
Yes, I did. And again, this is what I did after game 1 was I went for like, I don't know, like an hour-long walk and ended up getting some tacos. It was great.
Okay, so we have baseball,
Yep.
painting,
Yep.
and we'll have walking.
I think I think I might just need a vacation at the end of this whole season.
yeah. Vacation
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Blake, do you have any suggestions
Yeah,
for
this
Big Willie?
this is maybe a little more investment, but the nice thing is it's something you can dabble in as you're doing other things like walking, biking, even baseball, whatever.
Mm,
I think it's time Will Lou becomes a music guy.
mm.
Get some live outdoor shows this summer. We'll get you out to a pup show in a
Yeah,
couple
okay,
weeks.
yeah.
You can't go in the pit though. You got to stand at the back because the size of you.
Oh, yeah, you're
It's,
right. You're right,
you got to use common courtesy there.
Can someone
and
sit on
stand.
sit on my shoulders then? I mean, like,
You could do that at outdoor one. I don't think you want to do that like in the pit at a pub concert because people are going to be trying to like stage dive and stuff like that.
yeah.
But we can get you to like, I'm not going to say the outdoor venues in case I don't know what our relationship is with like Live Nation and stuff, but
Okay.
we can get you some outdoor shows.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good way to be in the sun and be social. And yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Will Lou's a music guy now.
I no. I mean, I thought people were like exclusively podcast or music people. Do you find that is that true?
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like a lot of people who listen to podcasts
Right.
pretty much spend most of their free time when they put something in their ears
Yeah.
listening to podcasts rather than music. And people who really like music mostly listen to music and like rarely listen to podcasts.
The only thing
It's like
I
not like a
listen-
50-50 kind of person. That's
You know what? I think you do have a point because I'm like 80% podcast,
yeah, same.
20%
Same.
music. I would
I-
say.
I was gonna make a joke about just all I listen to is the great offerings on the Sportsnet Radio Network,
That's true.
but
All
This
day,
whole
baby.
segment is being sponsored.
Nah,
but-
what are you, Dan Tellman?
no, I'm a 100% music person. The only thing I'll listen to other than
you
music
go.
is like if I'm walking around outside, I'll turn the Jays game on radio in my headphones
Right.
because I like that feeling of like being outside and listening on the radio. It reminds me of like I don't know, being a little kid playing in the backyard or whatever.
Same. Damn, is that why we're here on the station?
Maybe.
I was very nostalgic, but I told Paul Jones this when we had Paul on the show, and I told him again. But just like listening to the Raptors when I was like a kid, like we didn't have television, so it was like radio was like the option to engage with sports, and it was like when the Raptors would go on the West Coast and like it's a 10:30 game, I like literally have the alarm clock radio like beside my bed, pretending to sleep, listening to the game, or like in the summertime listening to just Jays on the radio and everything like that. I think honestly that was probably the big motivation to come here.
Yeah, no, I
It's
have
pretty
fan,
cool to
I have fan
fulfill that
590
dream.
moments. I remember being in my car when like Roger Clemens had his press conference when he signed with the Blue Jays. Like it's just like big sports moments that you remember.
Getting to do a little bit of Blue Jays pre and post has been really cool for me. Obviously, Raptors in the playoffs right now is the focus and everything. But like, yeah, I came to a ton of Jays games driving in from Cambridge, and you drive home after, and it's like an hour and a half, hour 45 drive when you're stuck in traffic and stuff, and you have Jays talk on,
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
true.
listening to the call-in show and stuff. And now to get to do a little bit of that is really cool.
Maybe we could get you to do one React pod of all the other sports, like a Blue Jays
I like
React
this
pod,
challenge. Yeah.
right?
But,
A CFL.
Oh, Leafs playoff react pod.
Oh, please,
okay. Yeah.
Oh
please.
boy.
Me and you. I'll help you out.
I'm
I'll
looking
produce.
at the so that we have a whiteboard in front of us off the camera, but you could see it.
It's pretty outdated.
It has like the 4 lines of the team on the forwards and the
Toronto
three
Maple Leafs, yeah.
defensive lines. I think I might know like 5 guys on that team. So
Yeah, this
yeah.
is a little outdated as well. I think this is
Oh,
what
yeah?
Kipper and Bourne use, but they don't.
Wow,
Yeah,
call
they've-
them out.
They've got an injured defenseman in there. They don't have Muzzin back in the mix. They haven't added Giordano yet, so this is pre-trade deadline.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
that's Rasmus Sandin, not
Yeah.
Matt Sundin. Yeah.
Nick Ritchie's still on the roster. Yeah, this is an older one.
Well, you know what? You know what? You've talked me into it. I'm back in on basketball.
The conclusion is you realize that life without basketball is
No,
absolutely
I'm
terrible.
back in on basketball, man. I think we tried other things for this 30 minutes here, and
Someone said,
none of it's hitting, man.
yeah, a couple more before we take this break. Someone in the YouTube chat said you should learn how to play piano.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
I have a keyboard at home. I'm endeavoring.
Yeah, and a friend of the program, Elaine Kwan, texted in and said you should be a food critic.
I actually love
Review-
being a food
review
critic.
food
actually.
places, yeah.
Okay, I'm down.
So
We're
there we go.
basically a food critic on the show. But we are going to take a quick break right here. I'm your host, Walu. You are listening to the Raptors Show. I know we will talk about the Raptors soon. And it's powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. Reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360, Monday to Friday between 1 and 3 p.m. Joined in the second hour by the Fan Morning Show's Blake Murphy. Producer, hit it.
Blake Murphy.
Blake, welcome back to the show. Obviously, Tuesday is your domain. Alex has literally cleared out. He's called the ISO. We could see him strutting in the background alongside of Derek and Jennifer, who
doing
are
a little Diamond
actually,
Dallas Page. He's just strutting around like a wrestler waiting for his opponent to come out. And he's doing like the taunt. He's hitting the taunt stick on the N64 controller right now.
He looks like he's trying to get his steps in or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, because Alex is finally out of here, we can finally talk about the actual basketball that is taking place. Raptors are down 2-0 in the series. And like I mentioned, before we went to break, my only point to you really for this program today is that, look, we'll talk about some of the positives. I thought OG and Chris Boucher were pretty good in game 2, and we'll discuss whether that can be sustainable or anything like that. But right now, to me, biggest issue in the whole series against the Raptors, why they're down 2-0, is because their defense has not shown up. There's a lot of talk about their defense being really innovative, the length, the 6'9" thing, the Raptors having a really good, I think they're top 5 in defensive rating, post All-Star break, the defense. That's what was going to win the Raptors some games. But right now, the defense has just been terrible. The Sixers have shot better than 50% from the field in both games, better than 40% from three, shooting tons of free throws at a very high clip because they're a very good free throw shooting team. And the Raptors have simply not stopped the first option, the second option, the third option, or the fourth option, really. So that's why the Raptors are down in the 2-0 hole beyond anything else. And if the Raptors hope to get back into the series, which I think you and I both agree there still is a chance, but in order to do that, they absolutely need to fix their defense. So, I mean, I guess I'll tell you right here, do you feel like they need to sort of go back to the drawing board with how they're defending in this series?
A little bit. I think we need to, to kind of redesign it, we need to take a look at what hasn't worked, right? And obviously, you just said a lot of things, but there's a pretty big contrast between game 1 and game 2 in terms of what did and didn't work. And you can maybe take some encouragement from that in that game 2, they at least forced turnovers. That is 0.1A on Raptors game plan against just about every team. And that's it's not just about the turnovers. They use turnovers and deflections and things like that as a proxy for, are you making the opponent uncomfortable on offense?
Yeah.
So the turnover number jumps from 3 to 14. That should be a positive. But we know that to force those turnovers, the Raptors are hyper aggressive. They're very, very aggressive. They're handsy.
That's true. Yeah.
We've seen, as much as Raptors, the team and the fan base and the players and the coach have complained about the whistle in the series, we've had games where the Raptors go up against good opponents earlier in the regular season, and those opponents are complaining about the whistle the Raptors get, because basically the idea is, well, you can't call everything, and we're at a size disadvantage, so take your chances on being physical and being a little handsy. And usually that pays off with a lot of turnovers that fuel the transition game.
Yep.
Curiously, the Raptors offense has been fine in this series, and their half-court offense has actually been pretty good, especially by their own standards. They have not they forced more turnovers last game. They didn't turn those into transition offense, which is troubling because Philly's one of the worst transition defenses in the league. So that's one component that they moved in the right direction. I think probably the way we have to look at this is we start with Embiid, and I think you have to put out the first fire, to use a Jerry Stackhouse 905 term. And the first fire is always going to be Joel Embiid. He has been a monster through 2 games. He's got 50 points, 6 offensive rebounds, 4 assists, only 4 turnovers. And of course, he's taken 25 free throw attempts.
Oh, jeez.
So,
man.
I know. There are a couple things we can try to do differently with Embiid. And again, Nick Nurse thought game 2 was a little better. He had to work a little harder. And he shot a ton of free throws in the first quarter. But in general, they made life difficult for him. Couple turnovers, 0 assists. What do you want to do differently with Joel Embiid? Because a 7-footer isn't walking through the door.
Yeah, no, it's genuinely not. I think their defense against Embiid, at least their overall general strategy, has been okay. I actually wouldn't change too much about it. What's been really difficult is, number one, he's been really active especially moving off the ball. For him, like, so off the ball movement, we're always thinking about, like, like a JJ Redick running around, sprinting, coming out of screens, stuff like that. Like a Klay Thompson, even Jordan Poole these days. Salute to Jordan Poole, by the way, Mike. That's what the Warriors needed, another guy who could shoot like that. Anyway,
he knocked Steph Curry to a bench roll.
it's unbelievable. But like, that's what we're thinking about with off-ball movement. But I think for a big like Embiid, his version of off-ball movement is like, okay, he'll give up the ball, but then he'll just keep attacking. He'll go from one side of the lane to the other. When he gives up the ball, he immediately starts to move, starts to get deeper post position. And, he's done such a good job of staying involved, hurting the Raptors, and that's why they keep fouling him. There's not too much you can do against that just because you don't have like a big enough guy to bump him and slow him down. It's not even tiring for him probably. But like, that's the only thing I would say. The Raptors, if they can do a better job, whether that's Kem, whether that's Precious, like just bumping him from their certain spots, I think that's the only real note I could say. Otherwise, he's not actually hurting you from his own individual scoring that much. In fact, I would almost prefer if he had the ball a little bit more because he's not creating as much out of his own attention as opposed to someone like James Harden, who, even though he hasn't scored well, has really done a good job distributing. So actually, I'm fairly okay with it. The thing with Embiid, you have to understand is, you're going to send him to the free throw line at least 10 times a game, like period. I know people are upset about the calls. Some of them are upsetting. The way he flops for them sometimes is like genuinely upsetting, like especially because you're actually legitimately having to foul him all the time. But then if he's also exaggerating, then it hurts even more. It's like, a rich person taking money from someone who's on the street. It's like that. But at the same time, that's just ultimately it's going to happen. But I think for the most part, they've actually done a decent enough job against Embiid. You just have to accept that he's like a force of nature. He's going to score this much on you.
Do you know how many free throws per game more he's averaging in this series than in the regular season?
Like 1?
0.7.
Oh, God.
This is what they do.
This is normal. Like, this is normal for him. Yeah.
And again, we both kind of went through the tape on this one, and there were, I think, 2 fouls Embiid got that stood out as, okay, that was a bad call. But for the most part, he has the ball a ton, and you have to be super physical with him because you don't have the size to match up.
Yep.
And there aren't a lot of options. Like you just laid out, Precious and Kem Birch have to do more, even though that's asking a lot of them, to make him fight for his positions, to push him out of the paint a little bit and make his catches come outside of the paint. Mm-hmm. But it's not like you can front the post entry passes to Joel Embiid because
by the way, he's done a really good job of, if you front him, he's going to give you a little push in the back. You're going to miss the catch, and then he's just going to dunk, or you're going to foul him again.
And the Raptors don't have the help defender coming over that can, no one can really come over and contest Joel Embiid in help defense. It's not like that guy doesn't exist,
sure,
but you can at least
Giannis,
have
length.
You can have length or strength against him, and the Raptors don't really have that. So if you're, say, Kem Birch and you front that, and it's Boucher sliding over to try to block it, like we saw what that looks like last night on that goaltend, kind of. It's like, okay, you can't get close enough to Embiid on a contest because you'll foul him.
Mm-hmm.
And so there just aren't a lot of good options. So I agree with you that for the most part, they've done a pretty good job on Embiid. My one area, and this isn't really a defensive design thing, it's an execution thing.
Yeah.
He has been able to seal in transition and semi-transition way, way, way too easily. He is beating the Raptors back down the floor a lot. Yep. And I don't know if that's I don't not know. I think it is a symptom of not making him work hard enough on defense. That's, you only have so many options about how do you attack a guy and who do you attack, because logically, why would you attack Joel Embiid, who's an annual Defensive Player of the Year candidate, when you have a James Harden on the floor or a Tyrese Maxey on the floor or Jordan Yang on the floor? Like, why would you? But the answer is that you want Embiid at least being put in, hey, he's got to switch. He's got to move his feet. He's got to come out to the perimeter. Maybe he takes a couple bangs. Maybe he can't just, once the ball goes up, start running down the floor, because this is like Philadelphia has been like 100th percentile transition offense through 2 games.
Right.
And a lot of that is, some of it's Maxey for sure, but a lot of it is Embiid is not being challenged to be the first guy down the floor.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's completely fair. And I think that's the only thing you can really do against him is take away the easy ones. Foul him if he gets too close to the hoop. Bump him as much as physically possible. I mean, look, if we're looking at individual matchups, who's done the best job just taking on the primary assignment of guarding?
I think Precious.
Okay. Yeah.
It's been
I
a
thought
little.
Precious did better in game 1. Kem did better in game 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, the part of the issue there is that one of those guys presents at least a little bit of an offensive threat.
Yeah,
and
you're talking about Precious.
they're not respecting either of them. Like, they do not care if either of those guys are screening or rim running or whatever. There's a reason Precious has got 17 field goal attempts in 58 minutes, and they're willing to let him do that. They just And credit to Precious, the couple of field goals he has made have been pretty impressive ones.
That one
He's
play
had
where
some
he drove
great
out the
ones.
baseline, attacked Embiid, and then dunked the ball. I was like, wow, that's really, really nice. But I need that like once a quarter.
Yeah, and Kem Birch just isn't going to shoot a lot, right? Like, he's taken
He finally
5.
hit the corner 3.
He did.
Nice
And a night when no one else was hitting threes except OG. So,
Yeah.
okay, so that's the Embiid thing. And then the next thing we have to choose is, who is your priority 2, Harden or Maxey? And even though Maxey is averaging over 30 points a game in this series with lethal efficiency, it's James Harden. I don't think, I don't want to answer for you, but are you coming off of what's been a clear priority to get the ball out of James Harden's hands?
Yes, I am.
You're coming off of that. You're going to make James Harden beat you more as a scorer.
Yes, because I still haven't seen him do that to the Raptors. I think that's the big adjustment.
In one-on-one coverage. Like, we haven't seen him face one-on-one other than, the odd rip through or step back.
Yeah, like, he could totally beat you, right? First off, he's had 3 step back jumpers against Gary Trent Jr., who, by the way, has just not affected him. He might be a little too small for him anyway.
Yeah. You want OG on Harden?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I want OG on Harden. I want him to. Actually, the tricky thing with Harden is it's very hard to just stop him like individually. He's a very, very smart player, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if, for example, let's say, he's playing pick and roll with Joel Embiid, that prevents a whole issue for you. So what are you really going to do against that? I think the Raptors' best bet probably to switch those, especially if Kem's not on the floor, because what they're doing right now is the Sixers are realizing, the Raptors are not going to help off of Embiid ever. So if he comes off a screen, his man is not going to slide over, take a step to maybe cut off the driver or whatever, or maybe come out and contest the 3. Not really taking pull-up threes like that anyway. But like, they're basically not going to help off of Embiid at all because they're so afraid of him. Because if you do help off of him, he can roll, he can get deeper position. There's just real issues. So you have to stay with him. So then you're always getting a free run to the basket, either with Maxey or with Harden when you play that strategy with Embiid. So I think switching probably makes the most sense there.
Yeah, and what we've seen with the Harden thing is, though, that pinching at the free throw line or the help off the strong corner just has not been attentive enough. Like, it's been a little bit too much ball watching. He's
also passing really early too.
Yeah,
which really helps.
And he's such a good, like, obviously James Harden is a good passer. That doesn't really need to be said, but he puts every pass in the shooting pocket. Like, Tobias Harris has not had to move at all this series to get his buckets. Like Harden is making life easy for guys like that. So yeah, I think, you putting OG on Harden does allow you to switch that, because probably OG and Precious, maybe Scotty, if he plays, are the guys that you would be like, okay, I trust that. I'm okay with that matchup on Harden, and I'm okay with that matchup on Embiid. I don't think you want Siakam in those situations, even though he could probably handle it, just for the risk of foul trouble, and because Siakam is your best defensive player when it comes to those help assignments and flying around a little bit, and whether it's helping at the rim or doubling from unconventional angles and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree with you. OG on Harden, Precious on Embiid, and you switch where you can, and then it's just on. I mean, it's on Fred and Pascal to execute the help stuff effectively. And yeah, I don't know if Gary's going to play tomorrow night. I don't know what you're going to get out of him, but I'm sure you've noticed that, especially in semi-transition, when the Raptors can't pick their matchups, they're hunting Trent.
Yeah, no, they are. And that's the thing. For me, if he's not like 100%, you got to change it up. You got to put as much size on the floor as possible. I know you already lost Scotty, Scotty's one of those cheat codes where he can run the point for you a little bit. He can do a little scoring for me. You can play in different positions, but ultimately he's still going to be 6'9" with huge wingspan, right? Other guys on the team don't have that kind of flexibility, but ultimately you need to put as much size on the floor as possible. What I really wanted to see from game 2 was like a real defensive, gritty kind of game. Game ends in the 90s, and maybe the Raptors are close at the end of the game to steal it, right? That didn't happen. The Sixers got...
Well, their offense was in the 90s. They got half of it, right?
Yeah, that was real tough. They had a 15-0 run at the end there, Blake.
Yeah, they only needed one more 15-0 run to come back.
Oh my God.
I don't want to be... Okay, so we've got the Embiid and Harden assignments, and we've got the
basically,
general idea of you want to guard Harden more straight up than you have been, because until he shows you that I can control this game as a scorer, which is something he really hasn't done in Philadelphia yet, in part because I think was making a concerted effort to fit in and figure out how to play with Maxey and Harris and those guys. And obviously out of the gate, it was a lot better with Maxey and it wasn't with Harris. And we're seeing Harris find his role now.
Yeah.
So credit to Harden for tweaking his game that way. But your thinking is guard it a little more straight up. Obviously, you have to help on Embiid because he's Embiid.
Yeah.
But let's see if Harden can still be 30, 33-point Harden, control the game with your jumper Harden.
Yeah, and I think the Raptors are fairly close to that idea as well. I thought game 1, they overreacted to James Harden. Game 2, Harden's effectiveness was much less. And so here's the thing. When he plays that pick and roll with Embiid, you switch that assignment, right? You make sure that, you have a more mobile guy on Harden so that if he switches onto Embiid, like you have a mobile 6'8" guy who can at least look, realistically, all your 6'8" guys are getting run over by Joel Embiid. At least somebody who's not like Fred switching onto Embiid or like Malachi switching onto Embiid, right? You switch that matchup. You try to force Harden to play one-on-one, although chances are they'll probably just throw the ball to Embiid in the post and you have another issue altogether. But if Harden is getting off that screen and you're not switching and he's going downhill, the Raptors have also done a really smart thing with him, which is that they're sending help at the very, very last second. They're not sending help like early. They're not like reaching in too much from the corners anymore. They're really just sending help at the very end of the play. Maybe Chris Boucher takes a charge. They put their hands straight up. Harden hasn't shown that like burst and explosiveness to ultimately finish over the top of that. If you look at Harden's individual scoring on the series, it's not good. He might be shooting in the 30s.
And he had 5 turnovers in game 2 to 1 in game 1, and he was much more involved as a passer in game 1.
Exactly.
I know
they're close on the Harden thing. They really are.
I think so. And I think that's, I think they're getting there. And so where we're at right now is the Embiid stuff, you got to keep trying. It'll maybe get better, but you've got to execute better with the transition defense.
Yes.
The Harden stuff, we're going to nudge even further to playing it straight up or switch with that late help, with the idea of you're disrupting his shooting motion or making him do late kickouts through a second body. Now, the third priority from there is so this is the difficulty in this series.
We finally got to the leading scorer for the Sixers.
So okay, you have 5 guys for 5 guys. Let's say, I don't know, what do you think? 1.7 guys roughly is Embiid, and then maybe like 1.2, 1.3 is Harden. So you've got 2 guys left to split up between Maxey, Danny Green, and Tobias Harris.
You forgot this is a Nick Nurse team. You forgot the time in the bubble where he was the sixth man on the floor, according to the Celtics. No, I mean, like, yeah, this is why they're being really tough to guard. So two things with Maxey.
Yeah.
One, he is shooting lights out. There's no doubt about that. Like, he's not only is he making the open shots, he's also making all of the tough shots.
But he did this all season. His shooting percentages are ludicrous.
Yeah, I know.
Like, he shot 49% overall, 43% on threes for the season.
But
and
right now
87% at the line.
What's he shooting in the series? Like 70%?
A billion%. Yeah, he's basically been perfect. He's shooting 68.8 from the floor, 57.1 on threes, and perfect at the free throw line.
Yeah, so there's a real issue here, right?
The true shooting percentage of 84.8.
Yeah, that sounds low, honestly, based on what my viewing experience has been. But like, when you're looking at him, like, okay, so what are you doing against Maxey? Because I guess there's the thought that, okay, you stay more at home when Harden has the ball. If Harden scores, it's not the worst thing in the world against you. But how do you limit Maxey? Because to me, he's hurting you in a variety of ways. When he's on the ball, he can hurt you a little bit. When he is, honestly, he's been when he's open for catch and shoots, he's been really, really good. He's attacking the closeouts and he's hurting you in transition. How many of those things can you take away?
Well, you have to take away the transition one.
Okay.
Because that is just like, that is the one thing that you can look at, and that is effort and attention to detail.
Well, it's not just that.
It's not just that.
What if the Raptors just don't go for offensive rebounds as much anymore?
I mean, their half-court offense has been better in these 2 games, but they've got to get some, like, they're not going to win an even possession battle.
Okay, fine. How about everybody gets back on defense except for Chris Boucher?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Like,
I mean, this is the trade-off,
like, he's been the guy who's been doing great.
And
he had 5 putbacks yesterday.
Yeah, and the entire idea with the Raptors being, like, the Raptors were a unique team in the sense of they crashed the glass a ton this year while still getting back and having a good transition defense. And the reason they were able to do that is because, hey, the switchability and everyone being the same size, that's really important in transition defense when anyone can grab anyone to start a possession. But this is probably one opponent that you can't really do that against because one of those guys is Joel Embiid, and you're not doing a good enough job. So, yeah, you maybe have to scale back the offensive rebounding a little bit. You've got to win one of the offensive rebound or turnover battle. You just you have to get more possessions in a game than Philadelphia does.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. So, in terms of Maxey, he is averaging 2 points per transition opportunity in the series. I think
you're not even joking.
I'm not. I'm not. I think that needs
fair.
to come down. And that's obviously an attention to detail thing. He's been pretty effective the odd time they've run him in the pick and roll, the odd time he's isolated. But the bulk of his stuff is coming spot up in transition. He is a perfect gap filler for this team where all your mental energy is going to Harden and Embiid in all situations. And then, a little bit to trying to get second chances and things like that because you need those cheaper points. And Maxey is the cost of the mental fatigue, basically. He finds his way to be open really well. Harden and Embiid know how to find him. So, yes, the spot up stuff is difficult. He's at 1.3 points per spot up possession.
Mm-hmm. He's also attacking off the closeouts because he's hitting the three.
Yes.
The Raptors have to close out hard to him. He's so quick. He's been there was one play yesterday where I think Harden or Embiid had the ball, right? Most likely. And they were at the top. They swung it over to Maxey, who was being covered by OG. OG stunted over back to him. Maxey hit him with a quick crossover, and OG literally was slip sliding in one spot. And OG's a really good defender. And Maxey still had him looking silly.
So here is the question you're forced into now.
Yeah.
With Maxey, if you use the Harden and Embiid assignments we've given, on Maxey you have, if healthy, Trent, Siakam, and Van Vliet as your options. Fred has not looked all defense Fred in this series yet. I think he's having trouble with the quickness of Tyrese Maxey. And Fred's such a cerebral defender where everything is anticipation and smarts and stuff that a quick burst guy like that is all fast twitch, I don't know is the best matchup for him.
Yeah, I know. It's not.
And I don't know. So the option might be, let's assume that we're not trusting Gary Trent a lot defensively because Philadelphia doesn't trust him defensively, and we don't know how healthy he's going to be.
Yep.
So your option then is to put Pascal on Tyrese Maxey, and what you're opening up then is you're daring Tobias Harris post-ups, and you're daring Tobias Harris to try to beat you.
I'll take that.
Tobias Harris has been very good in this series, but
I agree. Yeah.
That might be the lesser of four evils at this point. And obviously,
the lesser of four evils.
This is a good team.
No.
This is so. And look, we know that the matchups aren't as static as this. It's a live basketball game. Stuff's going to switch around all the time. But we're talking in your base defense, coming out of a timeout or first possession of the game or whatever. Can you stomach the idea of Siakam being the Maxey guy and maybe it funnels more to Tobias Harris? The cost being you probably can't use Pascal as much as a help defender.
Yeah, I actually like that idea. To be honest, I haven't actually considered it, but I really like that idea because, out of all the 6'8" guys, Pascal probably has the most foot speed and the length to kind of contest. Maybe Precious as well, but I think Precious is very firmly tied up in the Embiid assignment, so you're not moving off of that. Yeah, that's fine. And I think what you can actually do is replicate more of that help assignment if you have Chris Boucher on the floor, because Chris essentially plays a similar defensive responsibility as Pascal does, in the sense that he's that guy who's going to help freely at the basket, roam off of a guy out of the corner, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm cool with that. So,
and only one foul in 30 minutes last night for Boucher after fouling out in 15 in game one. So I mean, it's obvious to say you need the game 2 version of Boucher, but short of OG, he was probably their most, at least relative to what you expect from them, their most impressive player in game 2. So you get that version of Boucher as a help defender. I agree. There's a bit of an ironic thing in this game too, where if we were looking for spots to help off of or guys you can ignore and things like that, in the starting 5, it's probably got to be Danny Green. I know he yammed on you, but he's 3 of 14 on threes in the series.
Yeah, no, it is Danny Green.
It's probably got to be Danny Green, and you'd be licking your chops at the idea of Matisse Thybulle getting minutes because you can abandon him. He's not playing in game 3 and game 4. He didn't really play in game 2.
Yeah, no, Rivers has been very smart about not using him.
Yeah, and Niang is food defensively.
Yeah, literally.
But he's hit his threes.
I agree.
Shake Milton should be food defensively, but he's hit his threes too. So I'm still not really clear on how you lose the non-Embiid minutes that badly. And I say this as a big fan of former G League MVP Paul Reed. You got it. Like it's obvious that you got to do better in those minutes because those that's just your opportunity.
Some of the stuff was pretty wild. Like Danny Green,
Sure.
he had 8 points, so he had hit 2 threes, and they had to put back over Thad Young in like a 3-minute stretch.
Guess what? That's not going to
happen.
happen over 82 games all the time. It might happen over 7 or 4.
No, you're
So
right.
you've got to again, it's reductive and it's it's since you're a baseball guy now, it's like last year how the Blue Jays fixed Robbie Ray by saying don't walk guys anymore. And he was like, oh, okay, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, win the minutes when Embiid's on the bench. Oh, okay.
Man, if we had Robbie Ray in this rotation,
Yeah.
Be
Can he
nice.
defend Maxey? Can he strike out Maxey?
I wouldn't be surprised if Maxey could walk in a baseball and steal 50 bases and hit 50 home runs.
So here's where
Like
we're
a
at
young
then.
Barry Bonds.
We like what they've been doing with Embiid, or at least the way it's been trending. We're pushing even further to Harden is a scorer that you're okay with one-on-one, switching some pick and rolls, and the help coming late if it's coming.
Give him the Karis LeVert
Yeah.
treatment.
Siakam is maybe seeing more time on Maxey
Okay.
in a hope to contain Maxey and maybe funnel more offensive possessions to Tobias Harris, who's been very good, but if he's taking a smaller guy into the post or, operating face up that way, you can live with that a little bit more than what's been happening. And then Danny Green is the spot you help off of if need be and
Right,
where the extra attention's coming around. And a little bit of that is just going to be, which shooter's on the strong side. That guy's man has to help on Embiid, that kind of thing. But at a base level, that's where we're at. And then Shake Milton and Niang and Paul Reed, I'm
not worried about those guys.
Yeah.
But okay, so to then summarize, so who is on who at the end of the day after this whole discussion?
So we had OG starting on Harden,
okay,
Precious on Embiid, and those two will switch if you need to switch
Yes,
in a 9-1-1 switch scenario.
Yeah.
Siakam's on Maxey.
okay,
And
he's
then
not helping off of Maxey.
not nearly as much anyway.
yeah, okay.
If he is, he's helping like at the nail because Maxey spends more time up top.
Okay.
And then you have
I guess Fred is on.
Van Vliet and Trent for Harris and Green. And maybe you start with Trent on Harris because the size and because that keeps Fred a little more free to help. But you're ready to switch that because
I'm ready to put Chris Boucher in for Trent in the opportunity because you need some help resistance at the basket. And I know Chris is like slight, but he actually is very active and long, and he will block a
bouncy
shot.
and effortful and.
I mean, I would try it. I would try it. I
And
mean,
look,
maybe not even for the starting lineup, but like at least at certain points, you'll see that lineup where you have Chris as your backline defender because again, we're committing now Pascal out to the top with Maxey.
Mhm.
You're talking about OGs, out the top against Harden. You're talking about Precious. Obviously, can't ever leave Joel Embiid at all, or Cam, whoever it is. You still need somebody to help at the basket because Embiid's gonna go there, or even Harden's gonna go there, or Maxey might go there, or whatever, right? So you still need somebody to contest. It can't be Fred because as good as Fred is disruptively, he's still 6 foot tall. Your people are going to score over him if he's the help defender at the basket. So you still need some length. And if it's between that or Gary is potentially scoring, I'm probably going with Chris because Chris can also, quote unquote, potentially score.
So a question I was going to ask you anyway, and I think you just answered it by making the case for Chris Boucher in that group, at least for more minutes. Let's be optimistic and say Scotty Barnes plays tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
He slides into the starting lineup for Trent, not Achua.
Yeah.
And he starts on the Harris assignment probably.
Sure. Or even Harden. You could put him on Harden.
Yeah, and then
they have put him on Harden quite a bit.
But then what do you put OG on Maxey?
No, I think you put OG on Tobias
Okay.
still. And then OG can be your backline.
And you're a lot switchier with Scotty in there because then you're okay with Scotty, Precious, and OG switching.
Can't
in
imagine
whatever iteration.
He's not even going to be close to 100% if he plays,
No,
man. Come
but
on.
we're trying to squeeze a little optimism out of this. We spent the whole last segment.
We're really trying. Here,
Yeah,
man.
we spent the whole last segment finding hobbies for you in the event that they get swept or lose in 5 games. We're allowed to be a little optimistic in this segment about, hey, what if Scotty Barnes is back?
One comment from the YouTube chat that I'm looking at from Jordan. This game plan sounds nuts. How do you defend this team right now? Yeah, that's the whole problem,
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan, give us the game plan that doesn't sound like you're
No.
leaving an all-star open, right? Like there's
I totally agree with you. This game plan sounds nuts, but when you're having to put out 4 fires, I don't really know what else you really do, you know? So
4 fires, and then the 5th guy, by the way, is a guy who has 3 rings and is historically like a 38% 3-point shooter in the playoffs. That's the 5th guy.
yeah, this is a tough one, man.
This is why anytime one of those bench guys hits the court, you gotta take advantage.
How long do you think these coaches meetings are right now?
Long. I mean, we just did this for 30 minutes.
Yeah. They're probably spending that 30 minutes just talking about one guy.
Yeah. They did 30 like just on what would it look like if Siakam's on Maxey and the fallouts from there. It's tough because
listen, this is what playoff basketball is. I know people get really excited. You go into the playoffs, it's a great thing. You get there and you're like, damn, this is hard.
Look, we did a lot of
hurts when they lose.
We did a lot of this with Milwaukee too in the championship run. Like obviously there was the Philly stuff in that, but at least Ben Simmons gave you the little bit of, if you can stop him in transition, there are ways to cramp the spacing, and he presents an opportunity to help off of something. And the way Philadelphia is designed here with the starting 5 is it's not really a good option for that. Like there is, and Ben Simmons is a very good player, but next to Embiid, the important thing is where can you help from and how can you help? And because no one's gonna, like, you don't have Marc Gasol, and even with Marc Gasol, Embiid was like plus 88 in that series or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we went through this with Milwaukee prior to the injuries. We had to go through it with Golden State of like, oh, if Steph and Clay and KD are all there, what does that look like? Like, imagine being Denver right now and you have one good player and you're trying to stop Steph and Clay and Draymond Green and Jordan Poole, who's now on the same level as those guys, apparently. Yeah. Jordan Poole is Tyrese Maxey West. Just suddenly he's an automatic 30 points really efficiently. This is playoff basketball. And the Sixers... Listen. Look, if Tyrese Maxey put up the stats that he put up post James Harden all year, he's probably a borderline all-star.
Yeah.
And he's maybe the most improved player. And that's underneath 3 guys who are all-stars.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, the Sixers are playing very impressive right now. There's no getting around that. Like, I think at the end of the day, you can talk about all these things that you can improve upon, but like they're also just beating you already at plan A and plan B. So, you know, the one thing we didn't even discuss is like if the Raptors play some sort of zone, you know, this is a Nick Nurse team. They'll probably play some zone. You know, do you want to press their ball handlers a little bit? They do have only 2 ball handlers in the starting lineup.
And they did do a little box and one.
Yeah,
yesterday.
They did that. Precious was the one on Harden, and they were doing box and one. I think that was with Embiid out of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
The tough thing with the zone against this team is, one, a zone makes you even more susceptible to giving up on your own glass.
Yep.
And that's tough against Embiid. And yeah, you have Maxey, Harris, and Danny Green as the potential guys spotting up around your zone. And that's
maybe the Sixers is just way better than we thought they were.
Well, I mentioned this on the show this morning, and we were talking to Michael Lee from the Washington Post, who's obviously a Philly guy. And one of the things we talked about was, a lot of the optimism about the Raptors in this series for us, for national people in the U.S., was, hey, if you punch the 76ers in the mouth, this thing feels combustible.
Yes, I agree.
It's not an on paper, this doesn't work basketball-wise thing. They're thin, their coach doesn't have the greatest track record making adjustments to the playoffs, and who knows about James Harden. And maybe we just assumed a little bit that combustion had already started, and instead Philly's gotten
maybe
to be.
We hoped. I think hope was the right answer.
But it's not. I don't think it's just hope, because maybe us here in Toronto, but there were a lot of national people either picking the Raptors, or I think it was a third of the ESPN people picked the Raptors to win the series, and then most of the others were like Sixers and 7, Sixers and 6. Everyone thought this would be a competitive series. And I think that maybe the assumption that, or not even the assumption, just the if you punch them in the mouth, they might crumble. We overestimated the likelihood of punching them in the mouth in the first 2 games in Philadelphia.
No, that's fair.
And that's why, I mean, it goes without saying that game 3 is huge, but being back on your home court and you haven't, everyone says you haven't lost a series until you lose one at home. That's not entirely true, because you could lose this series winning 3 games at home, but
the series would have never happened.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Game 3 is very important. And hey, this stuff is all very difficult,
but playoff basketball is difficult, and this team has won in difficult circumstances before. This team has beat the Philadelphia 76ers in difficult circumstances before, both this year in the regular season and in the past with some of the same core pieces in the postseason. So it's not impossible. The 76ers didn't go 82-0. They're not going to go 16-0 to the championship, and they probably shouldn't sweep this series, even having laid out all those strengths that they have.
I agree
The
with you.
Raptors have it within them to do all of these difficult things. And hey, punch Philly and see if it's true. See if they will, if doubt creeps in, if you can light the match or whatever to just kind of sow those seeds that, hey, maybe it's not going to be as easy as we thought. And I'm mixing metaphors here and sayings, but I'm trying to round this up by just saying, hey, it's on you, and it sounds hard, but to go back to the old Dwayne Casey quoting Barack Obama thing, hard things are hard.
There you go.
Put it on a little plaque on your desk.
There you go. Okay. All right. Let's try these things, and hopefully we can at least solve the defense to some degree. Offensively, still more of a challenge, but we'll save that for another day. Listen, if the Raptors can start to play some defense, I will feel some real hope again in the series. I still believe it's in them, but as of right now, they're down 0-2, and both games have been not close. So we're going to take another break. I'm your host, Wolu. You've been listening to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590, The Fan. Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Walu. Continue to be joined by the Fan Morning Show's Blake Murphy. Okay, so we talked about the defense. Let's talk about some of the silver linings from yesterday's game. Again, not a lot of them, let's be honest. But OG Anunoby did have a nice performance. He had 26 points, 10 of 14 shooting, 4-7 from 3, 3 assists. And while he did a good job of playing within the flow of the team, as he always does, he showed us something yesterday with his individual creation as well, which is something where I know for me, while I was watching at the start, I was like, this is probably not a good idea to go through OG this much ISO because of, and I'm not saying that because I'm a hater. I'm saying that because the numbers on the season, OG was averaging like 0.7 at most per possession on isolations, right? He wasn't really running a lot of pick and rolls. When he did it, the efficiency wasn't very high. So I was thinking, well, this doesn't necessarily look like the right thing to do. However, at the same time, you needed somebody to be your third guy there, and OG was stepping up. And towards the end of the game, he continued to gain in confidence. He was starting to score in isolation. Had probably the Raptors' best shot of the night, where he had a step back 3 over Tobias Harris with the shot clock dwindling.
Yeah, on a possession,
nice.
by the way, that I think it was a Flynn Precious action before that. Like, they had no business throwing him the ball with 2 seconds left of the shot clock
a
like
grenade,
that.
and he was like, I'm still gonna.
That was a field goal percentage killer, and he hit it. So
I mean, like, how much of OG's performance is like sustainable going into Game 3?
I think it's, I mean, maybe not at 77% true shooting, but I think him getting 20 plus points and taking 15 shots is doable, because let's do a mini version of what we just did for the Raptors defense and who you want to prioritize and stuff. It's going to be Pascal and Fred and Pascal and Fred and Pascal and Fred. Like, Philadelphia will if OG Anunoby beats them against Tyrese Maxey and James Harden and George Niang and even Tobias Harris, if OG's beating those guys and it allows Joel Embiid to do Joel Embiid things defensively and drop back against non-Fred pick and rolls and be the help defender if Siakam's getting into the paint, or even switch pick and rolls onto Siakam, if that is still available to them, they're going to let OG beat you one-on-one, because like you said, the larger sample is that he's not super effective in that way.
Yeah.
He's only still just learning how to, within that, also create for your teammates. I actually thought he did a really good job of that last night.
Yeah, had a nice slow pocket passes to certain players.
But he's still in the development stage with those skills. So if you're Philadelphia and you're doing what we did last segment, you're okay with that. You're like, you are thinking of OG Anunoby even with 23 points a game on lethal efficiency so far, the same way we discussed Tobias Harris, where if it means you can shut the valve off on Pascal and Fred to some degree, you got to be okay with OG doing that to you.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that's kind of his role offensively, is like, best case scenario, OG can maybe help you match Tobias or Tyrese Maxey, but I think what we've seen so far is clearly Maxey is at a level like way more dynamic than OG offensively. So can he at least play Tobias to an even? Now that issue is, who is the third guy for the Raptors to play Maxey to an even? Does not exist, I guess. But
you're also missing the number one guy to play Embiid to 50%.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, and this is why so much of our analysis of the series was about not even depth, because the Raptors obviously don't go 10 or 11 deep, but like being comfortably deep through 7 or 8 and having guys that aren't obvious one end of the floor targets, like, a Niang, or given where they're at currently, a Danny Green on top of Tyrese Maxey in the starting lineup. Like, Green hasn't been super good defensively. He's smart still, but he just doesn't have the lateral quickness and that recover ability that we've seen from him in the past. So, the tough part of the exercise for Philadelphia is that they don't have as many good individual defenders as the Raptors do.
Yes.
But the Raptors don't have anyone who's as threatening as Embiid. They don't have a tertiary guy like Maxey, and they don't have, the Raptors have done a good job on Harden, but they don't have a Harden level ball dominator.
No.
What have you thought? Can I get your take on Pascal's performance so far? Because it seemed like on the Fan Morning Show today, and we opened up the text line, and some of the responses from both JD and from people in the text was that I was maybe a little kinder to Siakam's play so far, in saying I think he's been good, not great. I want to see more from him, but I don't think he's been bad by any stretch. And there were a couple texts that I was being a little too easy on him.
Wow, shocking. People really want to go after Pascal.
But I
All
want your
these years
actual,
later.
I want your actual take, because
yeah.
he hasn't dominated at certainly at an Embiid
No,
level,
he hasn't,
and
no.
certainly not like we saw in that last regular season meeting where he had the game of his life.
Yeah.
But he's been fairly efficient and smart with his decisions, and a good
Yep.
passer and a good teammate, and engaged defensively and stuff. So I just like, he hasn't played like an all NBA player in this series, but he's played like an all-star.
Yeah, no. I think what we're seeing is like, so game 1 was better than game 2. Game 2, I thought Tobias Harris did actually a really good job defensively against him. Kept him in front, took a lot of jumpers, right?
Yeah.
I thought Pascal got into the paint more. The times that he did get into the paint in game 2, he did miss a couple of bunnies towards the end of the game, but ultimately he was getting into the paint and kicking out, which I actually think is the right thing to do. Started the game, that was how when the offense looked the best, was when he was in the paint, kicking out to Fred.
Helps when Fred's hitting those shots.
Yeah, Fred helps for sure, but I think Pascal did a good job of sort of like initiating the offense. I mean, game 2 was not as good as game 1, but I still think that ultimately you could probably get more from him. Like, I don't know, like maybe it's just like unrealistic, but I really enjoyed towards the end of the season when it was like every trip down, Pascal had the ball and he would attack.
That game against the 76ers I mentioned, and we don't need to hold him to the standard of 37, 10, and 12. That's ridiculous.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
But he took 28 field goal attempts and had 12 assists, and it didn't feel unreasonable that the ball was in his hand that much.
Exactly. So can we do that now? Because what we're seeing is, okay, so they'll give him the ball every single time when it's Niang on him. But Niang's only going to play 9 minutes because, as much as we want to flame Doc Rivers, like he's not, he knows. He has eyes. He's like, oh, they're hurting this guy nonstop. Let me just take him off the floor. And now all of a sudden their offense is going back to being dry. It's like, okay, do that. But to be honest, I think Pascal has that ability to attack consistently, trip after trip. And I want to see him do that. Like, I don't want to see I'm so sick of the dribble pitch weave at the top of the floor when they're like, it's like 30 feet out. None of the 3 guys are going to shoot the ball. They're going to move the back and forth. And ultimately they're going to give the ball to somebody attacking one-on-one again. And I'm like, yo, just skip ahead to all of that. Just fast forward to it and let Pascal attack one-on-one. And I don't even care if Pascal shoots like a horrible percentage, but if he can really just like be clear-cut as a number 1 guy, taking possession after possession, like, I just want to see it. Like, if you're talking about developmental and everything like that, like that's what I want to see is, can he do that for you? And what are the limits to which he can do that against you? Because look, even when he does have like, switches onto him when he has Embiid on him and stuff like that, he's still gone at Embiid. He still gets the shot off. Sometimes he just makes them, but like, all you can really do is beat your defense and to throw the shot up. But like, for him, I still want more. Like, I still want more. Yeah.
And that's a testament to the season that he's had. It's not as much a knock on him as it is, we've watched you do that. And yes, I understand completely that the driving kick stuff and, the great assist to turnover ratio and spreading the ball around and getting your teammates involved and stuff, all that stuff is really great. And it's a good teammate and it's smart basketball. But there are certain times in playoff games where smart basketball goes out the window a little bit. And
I just want him to ball hog. Like, for real, I want him to like have the ball all the time, attack.
Especially if Fred looks like this.
Especially if Fred looks like this.
Now, if Fred comes out and he carries that first quarter over for an entire game, I'm not saying he needs to score 56 points, which he was on pace for, but if Fred is a more capable number 2 in game 3, then maybe, yeah, we don't have that bar for him, but that's the bar. You're the number 1 guy, and this is a series where right now sharing isn't getting it done.
I mean, look, listen, if they were running great plays and they're running great actions and guys were confident with the ball and shooting when they have them, then that's fine. But to me, what the Raptors offense looked like really effectively down the stretch of the season was Pascal isolating. And the other guy who, in addition to OG, who had a nice game yesterday, was Chris Boucher, who I think he just has a big role to play in this series. Like, I think it's a good matchup for him. Obviously, not having Matisse Thybulle in the game as much doesn't allow him to just like play free safety against the guy who doesn't score. And that's, again, another good job of coaching by Doc Rivers. But, like, ultimately, what are you seeing from Chris yesterday that's, like, repeatable for you and hopefully that you can continue to do the rest of the series?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the offensive rebounding, because this is a team, even with Joel Embiid, that's been susceptible on their own glass. Yeah. And Boucher is the probably top guy that you trust on the team to crash the offensive glass and still sprint his way back. And maybe that can't happen if Embiid is his check. But how often is Embiid going to be his check in this series? Almost never.
Yeah.
The other thing I think that he did, and it can be a bit of a tone setter, and other guys can look to it of like, hey, how do I impact this game when I don't have the matchup for me? He drew 3 charges.
Yeah.
And obviously, Chris Boucher is like a terrific example of the Raptors bet that, sure, you'll get temporarily open 3-point shots because of all the help we give, but we will sprint out so fast and we're so long that it'll make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now, you got to pick your spots a little bit. There was one instance, and I don't think it was Boucher. I can't remember who it was, but someone did that closeout against Thibault, and that's a no. Like,
that was OG. That was
okay.
OG,
Yeah.
OG, he made some questionable choices defensively yesterday. Whatever.
Yeah. There's a mental fatigue to this. That's it's not going to be perfect. But yeah, I think Boucher, obviously the big question is, can he stay out of foul trouble? And yesterday he did, and I don't think anything he did in that game is something he can't come out and do in game 3. Hit the offensive glass, run like heck back in transition, and when the scheme allows you to, slide over and draw a charge, or slide over. Even the goaltending I'm fine with. Like, it's a bad decision, but it's a bad decision born out of, I'm trying to scramble around and help and make plays, and we're down. And
I don't mind that.
Like an okay contest isn't swinging this game. A block is maybe helping us get back into it and keeping this rolling. So I'm even okay with, I'd pull my hair out if you're up 2 and that happens, or it's a tie game. But you're down 15 and you're trying to make things happen. That's what Boucher is for the bench unit for this team, right? He's a make things happen guy. And there are the odd game like game 1 where it's making the wrong things happen. And then there's the odd game where game 2 where suddenly he's your second best player because he's a hard guy to match up with. Like, it's just chaos. And he's he has so much energy and bounce that, like, it's not like you can just dust off Paul Reed and be like, hey, go out bounce this guy, or grab DeAndre Jordan and be like, oh, box this guy out who's running in circles to get the off. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think this is what I wanted to see from Chris in game 1 as well. I think this is him playing up to his potential. I think there's even more opportunities for him to shoot the 3, but we all know that that's going to come and go. That's okay. But, if the Raptors go on to, like, take a game, obviously game 3, game 4, whatever like that, like, assuming the injuries remain what they are, then you need this kind of production from Chris. Like, this is absolutely vital that he gives you 17 and 8 off the bench, which he's totally capable of, because, again, like, I was looking back on the film, 5 of his 8 shots are putbacks.
There you go.
He has 6 offensive rebounds, right?
You might not get 5 every game, but you can
that energy,
the opportunities you put yourself in, by making those hustle plays and those reads and stuff like that. It's not like it's the first time Chris Boucher's ever had 5 offensive rebounds in a game.
Yeah, there you go. Very pro Chris Boucher program on this show.
Well, you gotta.
That's why game 1 I was disappointed. I was like, why did he foul out in 15 minutes? Because I wanted to see this kind of performance, and he's totally been capable of it.
And let's be honest, if Scotty Barnes doesn't play and Gary Trent's not 100%, they have about 5.5, maybe 6 guys that they trust. And that's tough, but it means, hey, Chris Boucher, who has been here for 4 years, you're gonna need to lean on him like that.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, that does it for us today. I'm your host, Wolu. You've been listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Make sure you find The Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review our show. Thanks again to my producer and co-host, Alex Wong, our guest, Blake Murphy, our board producer, Derek Brandell, and Jennifer Rolnick for helping us behind the scenes with the YouTube stream. And we'll talk to you soon.